This is an ACU Centre for Liturgy podcast. Speaking of liturgy. Learning more about the liturgy has a profound effect on the way we pray. Speaking of liturgy, Bishop Paul Bird, Redemptorist, Bishop of the Diocese of Ballarat, Australia, and a member of the Bishop's Commission for Liturgy, explores Ars Celebrandi, the art of celebration, and invites us to develop our knowledge and skills so that we celebrate the liturgy well and become more open to the grace of God.
There's a Latin phrase, Ars Celebrandi, the art of celebrating. The phrase is used in reference to the way we celebrate liturgy. To speak of the art of celebrating highlights the fact that the celebration of the liturgy is an art. We might compare the art of celebrating liturgy with some other arts. In the art of painting, or the art of music, or the art of writing, the quality depends on the dedication and the skill of the painter, or the musician, or the writer. And likewise, in the art of celebrating the liturgy, the quality of the celebration depends, at least to some extent, on the dedication and the skill of the celebrants. And these include the priest celebrant and the other ministers and each person in the congregation, insofar as the whole congregation celebrates the liturgy in union with Christ. The more we develop our skill as readers, for example, the more effectively we'll proclaim the scriptures and offer the prayers. The more we grow in grace of movement, the more our gestures will encourage those around us to be open to the grace of God. So in all these ways, how we celebrate is important. Pope Francis has encouraged priests to develop their skills in the art of celebrating. But at the same time, he's encouraged the whole assembly to develop their skills in the art of celebrating. He wrote about this in a letter that he published in 2022, and to quote a few lines from what he wrote. Speaking of this theme, we're inclined to think of it only in regards to ordained ministers carrying out the service of presiding. But in fact, this is an attitude that all the baptized are called to live. I think of all the gestures and words that belong to the assembly. Gathering, careful walking in procession, being seated, standing, kneeling, singing, being in silence, acclamations, looking, listening. There are many ways in which the assembly, as one body, participates in the celebration. Everybody doing together the same gesture, everyone speaking together in one voice. This transmits to each individual the energy of the entire assembly. So that's what Pope Francis wrote about in that letter. The community's role in the celebration came home to me during the COVID pandemic. You may remember that for some weeks at the height of the pandemic, we were not able to gather for Mass. And then we began to meet again, and I felt a fresh appreciation for the gift of coming together in person for prayer. I was with other people once again, standing with them, hearing their voices around me as we sang an opening hymn, sharing a gesture with them as we made the sign of the cross together. This experience set me thinking about the voice of the liturgical assembly. We can foster the assembly's voice in a literal sense in the prayers we say together and the hymns that we sing. We can also foster that voice in a broader sense in the gestures we make together and the silences we share. In their own ways, we could say the gestures and the silences also speak. St. Augustine experienced the power of the assembly's voice in the process of his conversion. The church's singing touched his heart. In his Confessions, he wrote, "How I wept, deeply moved by your hymns, songs, and the voices that echoed through your church. Those sounds flowed into my ears, distilling the truth in my heart." I would pray that we might grow in the art of celebrating as a community today. That way we'll be more likely to experience something of what St. Augustine experienced. We'll feel the power of the assembly's voice touching our own hearts.
That was Bishop Paul Bird encouraging us to explore the art of liturgical celebration and foster liturgical participation. The ACU Centre for Liturgy, which provides pastoral formation in liturgy across Australia and beyond, is pleased to provide this podcast, Speaking of Liturgy.